You're listening to Zero Hour, a Scarlet Rhapsody podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Zero Hour. We are at Zero Hour number 138.
Woo!
And here with me on the show is Jared the Greek.
Hey everyone, happy September.
And here I am, Eri Kagami. We're here to talk about Long Beach Comic Con. A little bit of background. We've been attending Long Beach Comic Con since day one. We were attending when it first appeared in October of 2009. So this marks Long Beach's 10th show. Since then, they've added another convention accompanying them through the year called Long Beach Comic Expo. And I remember going there on day one in 2009, wherein Stanley cut the red ribbon and he opened up the dealer's room for everyone there. It was a fun event. I just went like right after work just to check it out. And it was a lot of fun, and I've been glad we've been supporting this con since then. There was kind of little press that this was the 10th Long Beach Comic Con. Technically, the 10th anniversary isn't until 2019, but there was quite a bit of buzz that this is the 10th Long Beach Comic Con. How does that make you feel, Jared?
I didn't go to the first one, I believe. I think I had something else going on.
You actually did go to the first one. I saw it in photos. You were dressed in a suit.
Alright.
Probably went on day two, because I think I went with a couple of our friends on day one, because it was a weekday, and it started later on Friday, and then proceeded into Saturday, Sunday.
Alright. I wasn't sure if I did or not, but I guess I did, if there's pictures of me.
You bought some figures at that con. I also saw the merchandise.
Alright. Sounds like me. So, yeah, it's kind of a surprise it's been around for so long. It's weird that it feels like the con feels new to me, even though I've obviously been going to it for a very long time.
And it has a very interesting legacy behind it, too. In addition to adding the second show during the year, Comic Expo, it also had like a horror element to it as well. Like in its early days, it was actually known as Long Beach Horror and Comic Con.
I remember that. I remember seeing booths for whatever the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie they were promoting there. They used to have a horror film fest, which, I mean, they still technically kind of do. I believe they used to have screenings for some independent horror movies as well. Back in the day, I always had those problems of, I want to see this, but I have 10 other things I need to do. And I can't just take 2 hours or so out of my schedule to just go watch a movie.
And they also keep on adding like new elements to programming. Like for the past couple of years, they've added Space Expo to both Comic Expo and Long Beach Comic Con, which is a great way to like learn about like what NASA's doing, what the space program is doing, past, present, and obviously into the future. And it's great for kids who want to be involved in aerospace when they grow up, or just like people like us who've been following a lot of the NASA missions. I know I've been following a lot of the Mars rover missions since my dad was one of the guys to help launch that. And it's just really nice to kind of just see like this educational element into the Long Beach Comic Cons.
Yeah, they've done a lot to grow over the years. It's the place where I got introduced to the video games. It's the place I got introduced to some really great writers and artists over the years. And you know what? I'm glad we've gone this many times. And this year had some unique quirks of its own, but it was definitely smaller. At least it felt smaller than previous years.
Yeah, we're kind of like really mixed with Long Beach Comic Con 2018, the 10th one. At the price of $75 for a full day of Saturday and Sunday, I didn't really think it was really worth $75. I mean, there were still some quality things to check out there, but when I was talking to someone in a dealer's hall who paid about $40 pre-reg price for a Long Beach Comic Con, she was glad she didn't pay the full $75 at the door price for Long Beach Comic Expo. The way I measure the price value of a con, well, what's its price at the door? And this really didn't feel like $75. If you're going for pre-reg, $40 is a pretty good value of what you're getting here, but I just didn't really think, it didn't really feel like a $75 2-day con. LA Comic Con, their current price for their 3-day thing is $75, and I feel that's worth the $75 for LA Comic Con, or whatever they want to call themselves.
Well, I think that comes down to the guest listing, because the LA Comic Con guest listing tends to be absurdly large. oftentimes filled with people you see at basically all these cons, but still, this is the con where you get to see them. Versus, I don't know how many people are going to Phoenix Comic Con anytime soon to see the same exact people. So there's definitely kind of a difference there versus Long Beach, which usually has a lot of indie creators, wrestlers, and a handful of comic book greats who come by. I have to assume they're local. So, on the one hand, it's not quite the guest lineup you're going to find at a LA Comic Con, but you actually get a lot more one on one time with people, which is really kind of awesome.
I feel with Long Beach Comic Con, especially if you want to get involved in the industry, it's a great way for networking. It's a great way for professional development and to learn how to fine tune your craft from writers, creators, and like you said, you get a lot of one-on-one FaceTime with panelists. You can also go into conversations with artists and writers in the artist alley to get their insight. Also gain some connection and some foot in the door. And I really think if you're like in either of these fields and you want to make a break in the industry, this is a great way to learn. And if that's what you're looking for, I think $75 at door could be a great value for you.
Yeah, they even have a portfolio construction panel that I saw on, I believe, the end of Saturday. And it's the kind of thing where, you're not going to be stuffed in a room with 300 other people. You're going to probably be, one of 20 to 30 people there to be able to maybe even have some one-on-one questions. I didn't attend that panel as I'm not putting together an art portfolio, but the fact that it was an option is pretty cool. And the fact that the video room, shows a lot of independent and small films is kind of cool because you can actually not only watch these films, but half the time you get to talk to the creators of them as well, which is a very different experience than what you would get at a larger event.
So let's kind of break down on the activities we did day per day. So shall we start with Saturday?
Yeah, I ended up arriving with a migraine, which was not fun for me, but that meant I got to go to the downstairs in the panel zone, which was super air conditioned, which made me feel a lot better, a lot faster.
Also, shout out to the people who are giving away soy drinks at the front of the convention as you're entering in. Because when we were going up the stairs into the walkway, there were these people giving away these soy drinks. I didn't know what to make of them, so okay, I'll grab the chai soy drink, and then you also grabbed the chai one as well. Mm-hmm. And it felt like drinking like liquid cereal.
It really did. Probably not the healthiest thing I could drink in the morning, but we looked at the bottle and it didn't seem like it had all that much sugar or carbs or anything, so,
It's about 400 calories and just kept us going till dinner.
Yeah.
I can't complain.
Yeah, especially when we kind of skipped out on breakfast due to kind of trying to get out of the door in time. But I ended up hitting a couple of panels. I went to the DC Nation panel, which was basically just a handful of DC writers and artists talking about how cool it is to work for DC. And kind of renewed my faith in DC. I mean, my faith was shaken during the New 52 era, and I just I've heard good things. I read a couple of the Rebirth books, but just didn't bring myself fully in. Hearing a bunch of guys talk about what, the new stuff they're working on put me in a much better frame of mind about DC Comics, so who knows, maybe I'll get back into that. After that, I got to see the focus panel for Christopher Priest, who is the guy who was most responsible for Black Panther in his current incarnation back in the 90s, kind of giving him his own solo series and creating him, building this lore and history around him in Wakanda, which is around the time, I think he was still writing it probably in the early 2000s when I got introduced to that series, and I really enjoyed that. And apparently a lot of people really enjoyed it because people still come up to him today talking to him about it. And he talked about his time in and out of the comic industry and his frustration with, hey, we got a new black character. Hey, Christopher, can you write this new black character? And he's like, how would I write any character and not just black characters? And he kind of frustrated that whole thing. And currently he's working on Deathstroke. So that's actually kind of cool. You actually got a pretty badass character to work with. And then I ended up hitting up the Teen Titans panel, which was basically a bunch of the writers of Teen Titans, including Marv Wolfman, talking about how much they love that franchise and how important it is to DC's legacy. And they even had one of the guys who worked on the Teen Titans TV show basically talking about he didn't work on the pilot and he had nothing to do with that trailer, so don't blame him. And I like how that's what he had to say about the show, which doesn't entirely put me in a confidence zone for that show, but that trailer did not put me in a confidence zone either, so, hey, he got a paycheck, so I can't complain about that writer guy, I guess. And Oh, and I saw the Steve Ditko tribute, which was great. Marv Wolfman was there too, because apparently he worked with the guy. I didn't actually know that. And so was Steve Ditko's cousin, or not cousin, his nephew, excuse me, his nephew showed up to talk about what his uncle was like as a person. And it's really interesting because he's clearly an eccentric guy. He was very much a thinker, a philosopher, but he also, apparently had some issues because he never wanted to talk about his time with Marvel. He definitely didn't want to talk about the creation of Spider-Man. Even his nephew said that he didn't really, even around the table and stuff like that, would not really talk about those days of comics. I get the feeling something probably happened between him and Stan Lee, which seems to be the case with Stan Lee and artists in general. So I'm not hugely surprised, but it does feel like we lost a great talent when he died, although he died in like his 80s or whatever. So he was around for a long time and was doing independent works prior to his death. So there's a lot of Steve Ditko stuff out there, which is really cool. And actually, I didn't even know about some of those stuff he did later in his life, so that's actually even more cool in my book.
So what I did on Saturday is I just kind of just wandered around the area. The way how Long Beach Comic Con was structured this year was different from previous years. So basically it was on the side of the arena and there were about 3 different events going on during Long Beach Comic Con. So we didn't have the main space where Long Beach Comic Con is usually held. So it was at those meeting rooms underneath the main theater. And the way to enter in is you had to kind of go through the second level of the theater, which kind of was a little bit confusing at first, but once you kind of knew how to get in that area, you kind of knew how to get in that area. So what I did was I just kind of wandered around the dealer's hall because I just wanted to see what was there. And upon my wandering, there was a wrestling ring and there was a wrestling match. And they brought in like this group, I forgot the name of them, the group just kind of escapes the life of me. They had like a couple of wrestlers on the ring, and it's basically 2 wrestlers cosplaying, quote unquote, cosplaying as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Deadpool and Spider-Man. So it was like a tag team match between these 2 guys. It was like actual wrestling. So I know on Starched we cover Cosplay Wrestling Federation, which is essentially just people cosplaying as characters and they just kind of throw promos at one another. This was actual cosplayers in the ring doing flips and stuff, and it was just kind of amazing to see. And the audiences that was like around the ring were like all younger, just all these like little kids, boys and girls, just here to see some blood.
I would lose my mind if at the age of 10 I could see a wrestling ring with Deadpool and Spider-Man versus, well, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan wouldn't exist when I was 10, but let's just go 2 other Star Wars characters, Han and Luke. If Han and Luke were taking on Deadpool and Spider-Man, my head would have exploded at the age of 10. Like, I would have lost my mind.
So these were actual, like, legit wrestlers, and they were just wearing, like, some clothing variation to just kind of work when you're wrestling. Of course, Deadpool and Spider-Man, they had, like, the actual costumes. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they kind of had, like, looser fitting versions of the Jedi robes to do the wrestling moves. So it was just kind of cool just to see everyone just super into it, and we had a really amazing MC, and there were just all these matches going on throughout the day, and I was really happy they brought back wrestling to Long Beach Comic Con because that was like one of the first things they had in 2009 because they actually had a wrestling ring, and it was just like regular matches on there, but they actually integrated cosplay into this, and it was just really fun seeing it, and you'll read more about it on our report.
I really lament the fact that I didn't get to see any of the matches. That just sounds like it must have been so much fun.
And the audience was really into it, and I was just like, oh well, I guess this is what the kids are into now, yay.
Well, wrestling's just gotten a nice resurgence in the last few years, and thankfully it's not just WWE, but it's actually a lot of the smaller brands are starting to get a lot of love, which is actually good because competition makes everything better.
And upon my wandering around, I checked out the Star Cars. They were at it's just the flooring of the Long Beach Terrace Theater is just kind of funky. So I call this the ground level. This is like the level where all the panel rooms were. And basically they had, when you walked out, you had to like just walk past security, and then you had a couple of Star Cars lined up out there. Usually the Star Cars are on right outside the convention center, just kind of for all the world to see, and you get some cool backgrounds. And this one kind of looks like, it looks like they were just kind of like just parked at an undesignated area.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, and so the cars that they brought out this year, they had the Jaguar from Austin Powers. They had the car from True Romance. I've never seen that movie, but it was there.
It's on the list.
And Jared's probably judging me right
A
now.
little bit. It's a really good, like, how do you describe it? It's crime movie with the romance and Christopher Walken. It's really good.
They also had like one of the Rice Rockets and Fast and the Furious. And I actually did my photo shoot right by that car. Because like, hey, your cosplay is Mulan. Here, I have a photo shoot by the Rice Rocket. Sure, let's do this. And then they also had the van question mark from Rad, the BMX movie.
Which is odd because
That's some bikes stacked on top of it. So like, if you were showcasing vehicles from Rad, wouldn't you like showcase the bikes? I've never seen Rad, just only seen like the avian review of it.
it's the Cinemasker rental reviews. Yeah, and I only know about it from How Did This Get Made? But either way, it's basically a cheesy bike movie, so I don't know if the van is ever used. There may have been the bike on top of the van that actually was the thing, and they just didn't want to have the bike sitting there. I could get that because bikes can easily be stolen versus, trying to steal the Jaguar might require, you probably get picked up by security before you do that. I don't think it'd be easier. I don't think anyone just left the keys randomly in that car, but, a bike's a bike. So,
Yeah, they also had the Resident Evil Umbrella Corps van.
all right.
Let's see. They also had the DeLorean. They always have the DeLorean out there. And they also have the Gotham City police car. So you have a couple of star cars out there, just kind of like just for photo ops. You can take photos with the cars. It's always just kind of cool to see those guys.
That's more than I was expecting.
Yeah, there's usually more cars when you have it upstairs at the convention center level.
Yeah, because normally Knight Rider is almost always there, or Kit, technically, as is the Turtle van or the A-Team van. Usually those are there, so they still had more than I expected them to have that small space, though.
It was a very small space, and I kind of wish they brought in more cars because that's like one of my favorite things about Long Beach Comic Con, why it just makes it unique. Even though LA Comic Con, there is a section for star cars inside the convention center, but there's a certain kind of feel to it when they're actually outside.
And they're not blocked by a bunch of ropes.
Indeed. And also, this is the same area where they had the food trucks. I didn't really buy from the food trucks, but it was just a nice addition to have there because, while there are a lot of restaurants in the city of downtown Long Beach, it was just kind of a nice addition to have. They had some tables, some set out there, because I don't think you could bring like outside food inside the convention center because you have to go through security again after looking at the star cars and grabbing something from a food truck, and you have to go through security again to go back inside. And thankfully, around this time, going back through security and going in through security wasn't an issue compared to previous years. Because I remember the one year when they started implementing security measures and having the Disneyland style security, wherein like, okay, you just go through a scanner, put your bags down. It was chaos because we were in line for about an hour before getting in. But this time they've expedited the entire process, and were able to get inside the convention center in like less than 5 minutes. So that was just a nice addition to have. Were there any other panels you covered on Saturday, Jared?
No, that was it. It was just those four.
That was it. And then after that, we just went over across the street to the Rock Bottom Brewery where we had some amazing root beer.
Mm-hmm.
So we commuted to this con. It was not far from where we were staying at. So it was about a 10-minute drive, no problem. So on Sunday, now what did we do on Sunday?
I ended up hitting up more panels.
More panels, and I did some more walking around.
Do you want me in first, or do you want me to go?
You go first.
All right. So I was able to hit the Latin American folklore and mythology panel, which was interesting. It was not what I expected it. It was a handful of various Hispanic writers going and talking about their projects, many of which were trying to bring back, bring Latin American culture into the mainstream. And they talked about, their childhoods and how they all differed. They talked about, the movie Coco for a bit, because you have to. And even talked about how, one of the guys grew up in Arizona, I think he said, and the whole town just does a huge Day of the Dead thing, and he just thought that was normal. And then when he left Arizona, he found out that most places don't, and he was kind of surprised about that. And it was just a very interesting panel, not at all what I expected it to be. Let's see what else I had. I hit the horror film festival thing that they did at the film room. It was the shorts contest, and it featured 4 shorts. The first one was called Goodnight Gracie, and it was really good. It was a home invasion style thing, a little 5 minute short of this little girl. Hears a noise downstairs, goes downstairs, sees basically psycho killer has killed what I assume is her parents. She runs up into her bedroom and she starts like reading out of the Bible, and it has a nice little dark twist ending to it. You know, it's a horror movie. Good guys don't win. That's how a horror movie is supposed to work. Evil wins, and it was really good, and yeah, everyone got a good little scare, and some of the people got a good little scare out of that ending. The second one was called Body Image, which is basically it's showing a girl do her beautification routine, and it's flipping between that and another version that's all the dark room, and she's stripped down and she's like stabbing herself and whatever. And there are two key problems with this one. One is the gore effects that should have been there just weren't there, and two, if you've ever seen the ABCs of Death, there's a vignette in there. I believe it is T is for Thin, which does it so much better. And the problem is, I'm comparing one short to another short, therefore it's fair. And when I've seen someone do the same exact idea but way better, I can't vote for that or feel like I can cheer it. And even the audience themselves didn't seem to really care. Like you could hear the audience you could hear some people talking to each other, and kind of a little bit of boredom setting in because everyone's like, yeah, we get it, yes, women do terrible things to themselves to stay thin, we get it, yes, thanks, everyone gets it. Number 3 was the one that had the biggest emotional reactions from the audience, both laughs, a couple of screams, and it's called Wasp Men from Mars. It is done in the style of a campy 50s horror movie, and it's just hilarious. It's at that point of like, I don't even want to talk much about the plot because I feel that everyone should just watch this short. If you can find it, watch it. It's funny, it has some scary moments, it's just great overall. The final one was called Red Ruby, and it begins in a like David Lynch style, what in the heck is going on? And then in the end it turns into like any generic modern day female action movie, including like unnecessary voiceover, unnecessary training montage. And I'm just like, what? This was really cool when it was like a mind trip, and you're like not sure if you're in a dream or reality or if there's ghosts or what's going on. And then it's just like, I'm training with martial arts lady, and now I'm going to go kill the source of all nightmares, and then it ends. Like, one, I could have used a fight between you and source of all nightmares. And if you're going to do the action thing, at least do the damn action thing. And it was just kind of like, you had me at David Lynch, and you lost me at Resident Evil Afterlife. What the hell? So, yeah, and afterwards, when people were putting in their votes and stuff, you could tell that a lot of people were talking about Wasp Men. That seemed to have won everyone over, and I'm glad. I was really, really glad hearing people also liking that one. Again, it's an emotional reaction is what you want out of a movie, whether it makes you laugh or makes you cry or makes you scream. That's what you want, and that short did it. In addition to that, I watched a panel on directing your comic, which was actually really interesting. I actually had seen one of the two guys up there before talk about, I think he talked about TV and movies and stuff like that. And both of them were involved in the entertainment and television and movies. And they went to do their own comics and were talking about the process of applying what they learned doing film to doing comic. So in terms of ideas like, hey, I want this character to look like he was portrayed by this actor, but I don't want him to have blonde hair. I want him to have, brown hair and whatever. Or describing scenes. So, I want like that scene from the beginning of Apocalypse Now with the helicopters and what have you, and I want something like that, but they're not flying over a jungle. It's a ruined city in the future or whatever their lines were. And it was really kind of interesting hearing them talk about that and the importance of communicating with your artist and about finding the right artist while working on a project. And it's kind of cool hearing this from the perspective of writers talking about what they did to make their projects actually work. So there were some really cool panels that ended up hitting on that day because it was just things I was not expecting to actually see. And especially, I've always said I want to hit the film festival, I want to hit the film festivals, and I never get to do it. I always get distracted by something else, and this time I actually got to do it. However, there were less panel rooms open on day 2, which I thought was a little odd.
Yeah, they lost the panel room, And I also noticed that the Jehovah's Witness conference also was using one of the panel rooms on Sunday because there were people from the Jehovah's Witness conference kind of moseying in and out of the basement level.
I'm sure that worked out really, really great when some of them accidentally went to the horror one and, like, freaked out.
Well, they seem to like have their crowd moving in the correct direction. None of the Jehovah's Witness kind of got mixed up with our crowd, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty much also wandering around the dealer's hall, and usually Sunday's my shopping day. And a couple places that I decided to hit up. One was Gear Oils. We were introduced to them back at Long Beach Comic Expo, and basically they sell these oils that just kind of help, like, if you're a spiritual person, this might be something for you. So I've been having issues with my heart chakra, and I ended up just getting something for my heart to open up my heart chakra. And for other reasons, we also got like some oils for protection. And what was the other oil that we? Oh, pain.
Pain.
Pain, she actually tried on me, and because my feet were just hurting, I was wearing Breathless Mahoney, and I was wearing like these high heel shoes, and like, okay, my feet already hurt because these high heel shoes, and she was able to massage my feet with this oil, and that also like just really alleviated the pain there. And I know that every now and then, like at conventions, we'll feel some sort of pain, whether it might be a sciatic pain because we're getting old, or like foot pain because of the cosplay shoes that we're wearing. But I felt that was just very useful. And Jared, you had an experience of like trying out one of their oils.
Well, the one thing I'll say about gear oils is the fact that even if you don't believe in any of the spiritual stuff, I use the migraine oil, and it actually really helps. As you said, the pain oil really helps. And even the one that's supposed to calm you when you have anxiety, I've noticed works well for you. I think it worked well for Deb and even me once. So even if you don't believe in any of the spiritual stuff, it doesn't matter because their other stuff does work.
And she also gives like a scientific explanation on like how like some of the oils work with your bloodstream and why they also alleviate certain types of
ailments.
Pain. Mm-hmm. So that was a very interesting experience, and I highly recommend Gear Oils.
Yeah, and then they have a bunch of other ones. They have ones for digestion, ones for insomnia, things like that I would really highly recommend because, again, if the ones for pain work really well, then I have to imagine that a lot of the other ones work well. And if you're into spiritualism, then she has ones for those things as well. So you have quite the variety there of options, which is really kind of what you want at a place like that.
I was very happy they brought them back because in previous years, Long Beach Comic Con, they invited just some phonies, to say the least, about them.
Well, technically, it's the dealer hall or whatever. As long as you can buy a booth, you can do whatever.
This is true. But I'm kind of glad that those people weren't there because they give a bad name to spiritualism. Because last year I just had a horror story with one of them. Long story short, after I did a reading with her, she's like, yeah, I can charge $350 to remove all the negative energy out of you. I'm like, you're a quack, ma'am. Bye. But anywho, another booth that I like to support is Duffworks, because I know they love us and we love them back. So Duffworks is this company that sells scents for your costume. So they have like these little spray dealies that you could spray your costume with, and if your costume is associated with a type of scent, you spray that scent on the costume.
Yeah, and then it's all done with water stuff, so it's not going to leave any oil marks or anything like that, and the scent will fade over time because it's water-based and, again, not oil-based or anything like that. And it's actually a nice little fun thing to have. We grabbed a couple new ones for some upcoming costumes that we're not going to talk about on air, but will be fun to put out.
Well, we can talk about the scents that we use on our costumes at Long Beach Comic Con, though.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the Inspector scent on Dick Tracy.
Yep, which is why we specifically got that, and I think this is the first time or second time I've done Inspector with Dick Tracy.
This is the first time you're using Inspector with Dick Tracy.
Hmm.
Because our whole summer was Anime Cons nonstop.
That's right, it was. Right, we got it at in the beginning of the year. So it took a while before I got the chance to do it, but I did get to do it. I also used Diesel on my Imperial Cook, which I brought back. I didn't bring my tray of food this time, but I just kind of wanted to have my hands free, which is fine because I had a migraine anyway, so it would have been terrible to carry around extra stuff. But you use the diesel, which is kind of nice for that, and I know you use that with one of your boat girls.
Indeed, I do. And I use Magical Girl on my Akibyake version of Mulan, the Howry part with the Magical Girl spray, which smells like cherry blossoms.
It worked really well.
And sometimes I'll use, like, for example, again, like Diesel on Erica from Girls und Panzer. And we actually picked up a couple new stuff, and you can follow us on our Instagrams to find out what our new stuff are. And our Instagrams are on this YouTube description.
Huzzah!
Go us. But highly recommend Duffworks, and because they're amazing people, and we thank them a lot for a lot of the amazing. And this is just so out of the box, just doing like scents for costumes.
I think actually we stumbled across them at, what was that, Comic-Con Revolution?
Yeah, we stumbled upon them on
Yeah,
accident because their sign got our attention. Like, does your costume smell? It should.
Yeah, and they had, when we were there at Comic-Con Revolution, they had probably close to 50 cents, I think, and now it looked like they had more than that.
Oh, they even made
So-
some custom news scents as well, because they were telling us a story about how this one Grell cosplayer wanted a scent to go with their Grell costume. So, okay, like roses, mortuary, here we go.
Yeah, they got like blood, roses, and something else. And yeah, it's pretty cool that they have all these options. And the people there know their stuff. So if you say, oh, I'm going as a character from this thing, even if they don't know the character, if you describe the character's job, they'll throw stuff together like that. And they even have a list, I think they said on their website or something, of various
It's on their
popular
Etsy
characters.
page.
Their Etsy page, that's right. Because when we're there, we grabbed a scent for, back at Comic-Con Revolution, we grabbed a scent for Ignis. And we went with the incantation because that was the one kind of recommended for him. Although honestly, I wanted to spray myself with food smelling stuff. It just seemed to make more sense. But the incantation worked really well for that. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's a nice little extra thing to add in, and especially when you're going around a con and people might not smell the best, it's kind of nice to be able to coat yourself in something that makes, or you're just smelling that. Although, just be careful because some of their smells, like diesel, or like, I think we grabbed, reanimated?
Katniss.
Yeah, that's Cat P smelling it. So just be careful. Some of the smells are going to be a little more rancid to make the character fit better, but it might not make your nose feel super happy. So just bear that in mind.
Also, while I was perusing the dealer's hall, I did get to take a look at Space Expo for a little bit. They had a lot more space this year. But I was also disappointed that Jerky Hut was not at Long Beach Comic Con because I was looking forward to restock my jerky collection, especially that sweet garlic stuff.
But yeah, I'm used to having a set of Jerky Hut in my backpack, and my backpack has not had Jerky Hut for a few months now, and it makes me feel sad.
But I did check out a couple of the artists. There was this artist by name of Brett, and he had like all these Disney mashups with horror movies. So I ended up picking up this canvas that had Jack Torrance, Slimer, but Slimer is wearing a Tower of Terror hat, and both of them are in an elevator. An ode to the Shining, Tower of Terror, and Ghostbusters all in one. And like, this makes me happy. I will hang this somewhere.
I liked a lot of their mashup artwork. They had one where it's the dogs playing poker, but it's all the Jokers. Going all the way back to from the 66 series with Romero, all the way to Lego Joker in the shadows. And it was actually kind of cool to see them all, just gambling like that. I thought that was kind of cool. And I know they had a couple others there that I thought were fun mashups as well.
The one you pointed out to me was Winnie the Pooh on the red balloon. Like in the Mini Adventures where he's like trying to be like a rain cloud.
But it's also like it, and Christopher Robin is like leaning towards the sewer grate with Pennywise trying to draw him forward because he used the balloon. And so it's like, I'm like, that's dark.
Because I got 2 canvases, I could get a postcard for free, so now that image of Pooh and Pennywise and Christopher Robin is on my work wall.
That's the way to go. What was the other one you ended up grabbing then?
I grabbed one they had. It was the last one they had, and it was Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh.
Okay, I need like just some Halloween themes for my office. Like, I grabbed a very cute witch and her cat who's hanging by the broom. And also the Jack Torrance, Slimer, Tower of Terror mashup, and Winnie the Pooh meets Pennywise. And you thought Heffalumps and Woozles are scary. No wonder why this guy sleeps with a gun.
Yeah, the 100-acre wood is a dark and disturbing place.
Scary woods.
Scary woods.
So one of my Sunday traditions is checking out the Disney cosplay photo shoot. So basically, traditionally in Southern California cons, Sunday is the Disney gathering day. So all of us Disney cosplayers just kind of like just gather around and we take a giant photo together, and then we just kind of do like just small groups. We do classic Disney, we do Disney Renaissance, we do Pixar's. If there's anything from the parks, because the parks have a fandom of their own. We also do one of theme park based attractions, because I know I've done the Haunted Mansion Maid, and soon Jared will be Master Gracie, our ghost host.
Mm-hmm. Complete with rope.
And then we also had, like for this one, we had like a couple of steampunk Alice in Wonderland mashups, so we also had like a couple of steampunk mashups there as well. A couple of unique cosplayers up there, is because we had a lot of Pixar characters. So we had like a full-on Buzz Lightyear, Woody, Jessie, and I think they were all a family. And then we also had like a really good Coco group of like the two dead aunts, and we also, well, two of the three dead aunts, and then like the mother who was alive, so she had like the Shankla with her, and like they were just an amazing group because Imelda, and I forgot what the other sister's name was, they had like the full on face makeup, and like, oh, they were just super super amazing. And my friend was there as Alice, and it was a really good shoot, and like a lot of good people there, and it was just a little bit kind of funky to find. Well, I would say it was more funky to find where the photo shoot location was, because it was just getting there again with the new logistics. Like, I could get there no problem if they had the regular arena entryway, but because this was on the Terrace Theater entranceway, you kind of had to sort of like just follow the Disney cosplayers to get there, so I just kind of had to do some mental gymnastics. I could have gone to the cosplay event page, but the problem was the signal at the Long Beach Convention Center is not the best.
Yeah.
Like, I've known some stories of some people saying that they didn't get all their text messages and all their Facebook messages until they got to the parking lot when the day was done. So my strategy for Long Beach Comic Con, or just any event at the Long Beach Convention Center in general, whether it's on the arena side, regular side, Terrace Theater side, is if you're meeting up with a group, do it old school. Name a location, a time, and be there. I know, Jared, you had your phone on airplane mode.
Because there's no point. I was just not going to have any signal. I was just going to drain my battery.
And you and I, we just kind of like discuss a meeting point. Okay, we're going to meet at this panel room at this time so we don't lose each other. So if you're going to like meet up with people at Long Beach Comic Con, don't rely on your phones. Just kind of rely on just old school. Meet at this time at this location.
And this mostly goes for this side of the convention center. If you're at the main convention center area, I've never had a problem. But if you're down by the arena side and especially if you're in the under the lower level where the panel rooms are there, don't even bother. You've got to do it the old school way. It's the only real feasible option at this time.
I think it's not an issue if it's at the convention center where you're on the second floor above the dealer's hall. And I think if you're like downstairs in the dealer's hall, that's where it becomes an issue. But I think like if you're on the convention center side, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely a con to like just do the old school. Here's the location. Here's the time to meet. Keep it old school.
Mm-hmm.
I also went up to the Terrace Theater level where there was like a lot of private cosplay photo shoots going on. This is the area where they have the fountain, the theater, and there's like a lot of really nice places to get some cosplay photo shoots done. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of panels that I was interested in sitting on this time around, so I just decided to just kind of just make my time like, hey, there's some photographers I've been meaning to shoot with, so I kind of use this time to just kind of like just meet other photographers that I've been meaning to shoot with. So I usually shoot with Robert Torres, so we ended up just doing a couple of shots as Breathless Mahoney. I finally ended up shooting with Brandon of Chief Geek Photography, and he was fun to shoot with, and I've always been wanting to shoot with him for the longest time, because since last year of Long Beach Comic Con, we're like, okay, we're gonna shoot right, cool. But I know Brandon's always been like running around like at different cons, because he also does Rebel Legion and the 501st. He's like their Finn guy. He's some big deal at a rebellion or something. I don't know. It was really cool just shooting with him, and he showed me the samples of Breathless Mahoney. I'm like, oh my god, I love how this word looks. And then some guy who follows me on my pinup Instagram, and I didn't realize, like, oh wait, there's people who know me from my pinup Instagram, will approach me. His name is Eugene, and he's a really cool guy. And then he just starts taking, and then like, hey, do you want like a photo shoot? Like, sure, let's do it. And then he messaged me the Google Drive last night of all my photos. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then I shot with Himawari Says Cheese. That's my friend Dawn. And not only we did some solo shoots as Breathless Mahoney right up in the fountain level, but she also got some shots of me and Jared as Dick Tracy and Breathless Mahoney downstairs in the basement level, where there was like a lot of room to shoot. They had like some fancy chairs there, and they also had like a fancy chandelier ballroom-esque type thing. So we ended up shooting there. So this is a good con to get some photo shoots for, because there's like not, well, there was a couple of things going on, but if you had free time, there's like a lot of really nice places to shoot, and having the access to the Terrace Theater was a lot of fun. Also, I forgot to mention him. I also got to shoot with Sunny Mays. And Sunny Mays, he's a cool guy, gives like the best bear hugs, and he actually had like a photo booth type setup inside the convention center, and he had his light boxes and everything. And then he was able to shoot my Breathless Mahoney, and he was also able to shoot my Akibake Mulan. I mean, it's great working with him, and the photos look amazing. I just got them last night via Facebook Messenger, and it's great shooting with you, Sunny, and hopefully we can shoot again. So I really like meeting a lot of photographers at this one. I felt like I've made some great relationships with new photographers, and I'm just very happy with my photos.
That's good.
Overall, how did we generally feel about Long Beach Comic-Con 2018?
I'm kind of mixed. I mean, the panels were fine, and I did enjoy myself. And I got to make a couple little industry contacts, which was always good. But it didn't feel like a con that's been around for 10 years.
It still felt like it was just kind of in its mid. If a con was like going on for like a few years and they were just still finding their footing, this is what Long Beach Comic Con 2018 was. I know like in previous years Long Beach Comic Con was a lot larger than this. They had like more attendees. This felt more like Comic Expo in its earlier days. Because anytime you have the arena side, it's usually like for the smaller shows, but if you had to have it at the convention center side, it shows that it's a larger show. And you would think like if this is like the 10th Long Beach Comic Con, it would be at the larger space. Like even though that the stamp and collector coin con was taking place at the larger space, you kind of would imagine because of how pop culture is, it would be at the larger space. Then again, they did raise the prices, so I wouldn't be surprised if people are just saving their pennies for LA Comic Con, which is a 3-day event, and they have a lot more A-listers as guests of honor, including the original cast of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Danny Trejo, and top of the line comic artist.
I think really what it comes down to is if this was a first to fifth year con, I'd be really excited and be like, yeah, you have to go to this. It's great. There's so much to do. Being a 10th year con feels a little odd and it definitely feels like a step back. But I don't want that to be mixed up with it being a bad convention, because it wasn't a bad convention. The dealers hall had a lot of stuff in there, including wrestlers. You had lots of great places for photo shoots. The panels were a mixed bag. I mean, I had difficulty finding stuff that I found interesting, but I still sat in on whatever. I need to panel hop. It's what I do. But like even looking at the SpaceX lineup, half their things weren't even, associated with going to space. They had a bunch of like, hey, the tech of Black Panther or the tech of Battlestar Galactica. And I'm like, well, this is all cool and all, except for I really don't care about fantasy tech. I would much rather hear about real-life technology. And that became kind of a problem when you're looking at, the content of the convention overall. And for $75, I would not recommend this event at all. If, like you said earlier, with
pre-registration price of $40, which usually goes up after Comic Expo, I would definitely say a yes to that.
Oh, agreed. So it's kind of that position for me. Not a bad event, just too expensive for what is offered at the door price.
It's a good event. I wouldn't call it a great event, but I would recommend it if you're local, if you need something to do, if you want to just kind of just check something out. I would say just check it out for a day, Saturday or Sunday, and if there's a guest of honor that you want to see really bad, just go on the day when they're doing a presentation, because I think this year's A-line guest would be the Game of Thrones people. So they had Hodor and one of the other actors from the show. And even then, when I was looking at the line for them, it wasn't a huge line. And I think last year, I forgot who they had that drew in like a lot of people to the point where you couldn't move in a dealer's hall. That was a huge draw. And last year felt more like a 10-year than this year.
Agreed.
But otherwise, I still think Long Beach Comic Con is a good show. I would always like to come back to support the show. It's local. And this is a convention, again, we've been to since day one. And I don't want to stop supporting this con. I want to see this con get better. I want to see this con grow. But still kind of keeping it at its heart where you can still get professional development. You can still get some one-on-one time where you might not get at a larger con.
Yeah, that is a nice advantage of this event.
So overall, I believe we would recommend Long Beach Comic Con. Just go for the pre-reg price if you're local, or if you're just dead set on going because your friends are. Highly recommend the pre-registration price.
Yeah.
And what's next for Scarlet Rhapsody on the horizon?
Well, our next major convention should be Kraken Con over in Northern California.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. We'll be doing our Disney Bounding panel, Moon Prism Pop-Tarts, and a couple other panels that we're really looking forward to doing again in Northern California. So it's always fun doing Kraken Con. Shout out to Lindsay Daughtry for inviting us to do presentations again. And we're really looking forward to it because they got a great guest of honor lineup. Dee Dee Lynn Magno, voice of Pearl from Steven Universe, is going to be there. Carrie Walgreen, voice of Saber, is going to be there. So super excited about this one.
And after that should come LA Comic Con, or whatever they're calling themselves this year.
Comic Con LA, Stanley's Comic-Case, whatever it is, we'll be at that one event at the end of October in downtown Los Angeles, again at the LA Convention Center.
Ugh.
I know, right?
I think I'm going to start calling that event Identity Crisis Con.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then after that is Kara Expo, which is taking place at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is hosted by Bushiroad. And they're going to have some guests in from...
I have a better version of this.
All right, you do it.
I can't wait to go to that con, because I'm going to love live while living my Bang dream and meeting New Japan Pro Wrestling.
You're not going to add in Review Starlight in there?
I didn't know that was them, but I should have guessed.
It's totally them because one of the actors in that is also in Bang Dream. So you get a twofer.
Huzzah.
I'm really excited about that one because my favorite band in Bang Dream is going to be playing, and that's Roselia. And a couple of my favorites from Review Starlight is going to be there, so I'm excited for that. They've only announced one guest from the New Japan Pro Wrestling side, so we'll see what else they'll bring over because... Again, I'm just super excited about this. I haven't been excited about anything anime related coming to the US as far as the convention goes for a while. So just really looking forward to seeing Roselia perform live.
So yeah, even though we're getting near the end of the year, we still got 3 big events left to talk about.
And we're looking forward to it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Zero Hour. Please like and subscribe to Scarlet Rhapsody. And don't forget to hit that little bell for the notifications. I know you hear this with every single video that everyone else posts, but you know what? There's a reason why we keep asking you to do this. It's because we need your support, because YouTube's algorithms are kind of dicks.
Also remember to click on the Ko-Fi button if you want to give us some money for parking, because any dollar helps us pay for that expensive LA parking. I am looking at you at LA Convention Center at the end of October. Your $40 parking rates at LA Live.
So no, until next time...
We'll see you at the con.
Until next time...
We'll see you at the con.